This video is definitely getting demonetized since I talk about some pretty heavy subjects, so trigger warnings for discussions of child grooming and content warnings for yelling, cursing, and spooky imagery later in this video. YouTuber egos. We've all seen them. Markiplier egos, Sanders sides, Subnautica's glory, and within the YouTuber ego fandom, one type of ego is very popular. The evil ego. You have characters like Darkiplier, Antisepticeye, Natemare, Blank Gameplays, Janice Sanders. My point is that evil egos are very popular on websites like DeviantArt and Tumblr. Now, when I was a little child on DeviantArt, there was a fan-made ego that I very much like. The general idea is a YouTuber that I very much loved at the time, but as sentient malware. And 13-year-old me loved this ego, and 13-year-old me loved this creator's content. I sort of, not really adored, but was extremely interested in the idea of a computer virus mimicking a person and then tormenting that person. And 13-year-old me thought this was a cool-ass concept. Now, the reason I didn't name the YouTuber is because the ego is virus cryo. I spent a good part, if you can even call it good anymore, effectively standing fucking Cryotic. So imagine my shock when I found out he groomed children. I legitimately didn't even want to believe it at first. One of my childhood heroes doing one of the most reprehensible things, feeling no shame for it, and then continuing to make content. I'm just gonna link to Mimi's video where she talks about the situation if you want to know more, but my god, this situation makes me so upset. I have experienced the 5 stages of grief, but all in the wrong order. First it was denial, as usual, but then it was bargaining, i.e. I will sell my left kidney for these accusations to be false. Then it was acceptance, then it was depression, and now I am in the anger state, and I will most certainly die mad about it. This white blob motherfucker has no right to be part of my childhood and then do something this heinous, backstabbing both all of his fans and his former friends, and then just go back to streaming like nothing ever happened. Like, no, Mr. Nonce, that's not how this works. I don't give a shit if you give all your wealth and property to the victims and live on a deserted island for the rest of your life. I will still be salty. So why am I making this video if all of this happened in 2020? Well, the other night I forgot to take my sleeping medication, and during that sleepless night, my mind wandered to old memories of the Cryotic fandom, and more specifically, virus Cryotic. And I had a blurst idea. What if I redesigned virus and removed everything related to Cryotic, making it new, clean, and sin-free? That is this video. Kiwa07, if you're watching this, I mean no offense, take this video in good spirits. I'm sure you have similar feelings to mine. And with that all out of the way, let us get into the redesign. Conceptualization and sketch! So the first thing I did was that I got reference images, and then I started to outline the shape of the body. And with the shape of the body, I did the lower half, I did the arms, the hands, the fingers, and then I, added the clothing, and of course, the clothing I added extra things like braces, and the shape of the hair. And then after I got that done, it was time to make a more detailed sketch, in a way. And so, I added the braces, the neck collar, the rib cage structure. So you can see me outlining the ribs there. And then after I got that, I started to work more on the torso, the abdomen, adding a little augment, I guess. And then I worked on the head for a bit, adding just general eyes and mouth. And then I started to work on, then the wires on the body, you know, computers. And then I redid the mouth for a bit. And then I started to work on the arms. So I added wires and of course the fingers of the hand. And then I added wires to that one. And then of course finishing the sleeve. And then I added a little nose for a bit more detail. And then I started to work on the other arm. You know, again, wires, sleeve. And then I did the lower half, which was cut off in cubic pattern. And then I started to do the colors, and I at first wanted to do a black and white outlining, but I decided to scrap that in favor of just actual color. So as you can see, I'm starting with a dark blue base for the skin, I guess. So we're adding the dark blue where it's necessary, the arms, the chest, the face. And I started out doing the sleeves with a pinkish color, however, I scrapped that in favor of a more green color, more green teal. And you know, we add that to the lower half, the neck, the arms, and for the lower half in particular, I decided to do a gradient. And then for the augment, I color picked, and again, that was applied to the ribs, but right now we see the wires, which I started out with a white and pink base, however, I would later change those colors. You can see I accidentally left a few wires out, to a red, green, and blue color scheme, as seen. And then I used a pinkish color for the ribs, you know, to give just that slight, you know, off tinge to it. And then for the, I guess braces, I initially color picked from a computer thing, but then I color picked from the Minecraft copper. So I added that to the braces, as you can see just here. And then finally for the face, I picked a very light color, and I even colored some of the line art. However, you'll see that the white on the fingers and extra lines did not stay. And then on the face, I added a sort of computer pattern. Trying to again further hammer in that that technical aspect to it. And I mostly kept it on the hands and face. And then after that, I color picked the colors, and we were ready to start lining it out.
Lines and colors!
Now that we've gotten the sketch out of the way, it's time to start lining it. So I used a low pressure on both ends pen and file packet to start doing this, and first I started with the head and the hair, generally getting an outline for it, adding the details, you know, and then continuing on to the collar, you know, using select when I can. And then on a separate layer, I added the mouth, face line, and eyes and nose. And on one of the eyes, I added a bit of a connection to the mouth and a bit more detail. And then I simply put it on a different color. And then I added the braces and the wires to help, you know, get that general outline, I guess. I don't know what to say. And then I started to outline the rib cage. So I started with the sternum, and then I moved on to the ribs. First on one side, then on the next. General rib cage drawing. And of course I added a bit of bone on the shoulder. On both sides, as you'll see. And then I started to work on the torso. I had a little bit of trouble with the augment, so I used the circle snap and file packet to help get it the right shape. And then, of course, continuing with the arms, adding that brace, and then the wires. Oh wait, and first then the sleeve, and then the wires. And of course, continuing on to the hand and the fingers, helping, line that out. And then, of course, starting on the wires. And then, of course, a similar thing was applied to the other arm, wires, a brace, sleeve. As you can see, I start with the sleeve and then the brace, and then the fingies. Of course, finishing off the sleeve. And then, of course, we started on the wires on the chest. We got those done in relatively quick time. Starting, then erasing. And then the wires connecting to the head. Just let me check my Discord every now and then. And then, of course, we got started on the lower half. And for this, I used the snap tool again in File Packet to help make those perfect lines. Of course, they're not exactly perfect because, overlap and such, but they're pretty damn close. If I really wanted to, I could have gone out of my way to make sure that there was no faults with them. And then, of course, using the square tool, I made some more pixels. And then we started filling them in with color. So I started with the clothes and the rib cage and, one of the parts of the augment. So I started to actually fill in the ribcage, and then the clothes, filling in anything that I might have left out, cleaning things up, and then I added a gradient and then a bit of pixel effect to the lower half. And then with the augment, I put a little bit of detail in there to make sure that it was clear, you could see what it was, because it was based on an eye. And then on another layer, I added the blue body base, but not before I corrected some things. And, I finished up working with that blue body base. So you can see me, filling things in and fully. As you can see, it takes decent amount of time, and you can see I'll take pauses every now and then because my hands get a little cramped, again drawing with a mouse. Oh, and then I added a bit of the other part of the augment, that being the iris. So you can see me working on the fingers and of course the hands. And then you'll see that I pretty much finished I start with finish up the head. And you see, now I'm working on the face, so I fill in the mouth and eyes, and then I start adding the tech pattern, or I guess the digital pattern, to the head. And then I add it to the hands. So I'll start with vertical lines, and then I'll do diagonal ones, and that happened with both hands. Would start with verticals using the snap feature, and then I would use diagonals to work things out, and then I'm adding little dots at the ends of these lines, like a technical pattern. And you'll see, these will appear later on, again. And then I started to fill in the copper braces. Again, going with a very much, I guess, cyberpunk theme. You can call it that. And then, finally, we get started with the wires. And again, I did each of these in separate layers because some of them do overlap. But again, this is really just how I draw. And then blue. And then finally red.
Finalization and add-ons!
Last but not least, it was time to add the final touches and some additional images. So when adding the final touches to the main drawing, I of course added shading. You can see right now that I'm adding contour lines for the shading. You know, any areas that are a bit too small for a full-on block of shading color, I just use the line work tool. You'll see that I am lining in or shading in the ribs and the wires on the chest. Oh, and now you see that I'm continuing on with the arms and the sleeves. As you can see, I'm adding all the features, the general lines, and now I'm blocking in the shaded colors. And then of course cleaning them up, you know, filling them in fully, drawing under the line work to make sure that, you know, again, it's all shaded in fully. And then after that, I, you know, move some colors onto the shading layer, and then I use the select tool to create a lighting layer. And you see, I wanted the dark blue tone to be very dark, so I decided to sort of make the shading on the dark blue areas less intense, if you will, by using selections. And then of course I added some copper highlights to, of course, the copper braces. And then you'll see me, you know, cleaning up on the blue lines, adding a glow to the augment, coloring in the pixels so that they blend in with the character colors. You know, adding another layer of that copper shine. And then, of course, adding layers of red, green, and blue as a chromatic aberration. Next is adding in additional sketch images to give a better idea of what this character is like. So, of course, I added a head image, a little bit of an additional image that was a deletion prompt, and of course, an image detailing the creation of this character. So the first thing I did was I started working on the deletion prompt. And you see I'll be typing in, "Are you sure you want to delete user/Richard?" and a warning that such an action could be extremely harmful to the PC. See that? And then I flipped it around and gave it a little bit of perspective warping. And of course, chromatic aberration. Next was the secondary head shot. You can see a bit of neck bone, and this character in a not good mood. Once again, adding another layer beneath the, once again adding the facial features on a different layer. And then of course I started with the image on the creation. Basically, it was this redesigned character. This character is a creation from uploading a conscience to a digital plane. Pretty freaky, huh? So of course I added in all of these features, give an idea of what it was like of the creation. So monitors, wires, switches. And of course, for the lower image, I added in a dark background to, further in that dark atmosphere. And then of course, I began to color this image in first. So what I did, first and foremost, is that I blocked out all of the colors, and then of course I added a bit of blood to help, push the whole, I guess, dead body, living computerized mind thing. And then for the electronics, I made them all one shade of gray. And then I put that gray in a layer lock, and then I colored over it with different, varying colors. Using pretty much colors I had earlier. And then for the monitor, I wanted to give it sort of eerie, like way too realistic sense. So I added a lot of unnatural detail to an eye. And when it came to like the iris, I just used an image of an iris because I'm not very good at drawing realistic eyes. And then of course using snap tools to help again further get a solid idea. And then I wanted to make the actual eye itself on a different layer than like the TV screen, so I just did that. And then of course I added a bit of static to again push that TV thing. And once again, chromatic aberrations. And then for the body, because I kept the screen on a different layer, so on the body I put a dark blue multiply on it. And then I sort of erased bits where there would be light. And of course, you know, selecting where it would be dark and then inverting that selection for light. And of course, adding a little bit of light from the screen, and of course, a bit of glow from the screen. And then last but not least was the top image, showing again the character in a not good mood. This new character in a not good mood, I guess. Filling in the colors. You know, all that. And of course, I made the technical pattern a bit more intense here. You know, further reflect that. The intensity of the moment. And then of course I added a bit of bright glow to show that light was coming from its eyes and mouth. And then last but not least, I added a bit of shading to the other parts of the body. A glitch effect. And you will see the final results of that glitch effect right now. And here's the final product. Honestly, considering the original source, you know, him, I think I did a good job in creating something new and good from a shitty situation. Lemonade from lemons, if you will. It was very interesting making a design with a similar idea while still trying to make something completely new. Obviously, this is not going to be a main staple character of mine, so I will be selling it as an adoptable for 225 DA points. However, I will first offer it to Kiwa07 as an offer for a bit of a cheaper price. If they reject or don't respond within a week, then it will be open to the public to buy. Hey ho! Thanks for watching to the end of the video. I'm sorry about this video being long. It's probably because I don't have a drawing tablet and I draw with a computer mouse. That probably makes the process of drawing take a lot longer than it would if I had a drawing tablet. So I'll be looking into getting that hopefully by the end of the year. I'm also going to be putting out some speed paints, to be specific, the Your Love speed paint and the Show Me How to Be a Human Being speed paint. Speaking of Show Me How to Be a Human Being, I'm going to be making a video explaining that and introducing the major character, so stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be taking a break from commentary to focus on art and OC content, and I will return to commentary videos. However, they'll be much more lighthearted. Stuff like terrible 3 AM videos, bad life hacks, or videos claiming that the Megalodon is still alive. If you want to see the finished art from the speed paint, I have posted it to my Tumblr, DeviantArt, and Newgrounds. And if you want to see works in progress, then you can follow me on Instagram. And if you want to talk to me directly, I'll be linking my Discord server, all these in the description below. This is the Soft Mink signing out.